Hello and welcome to everyone listening today for another edition of A Month for Emotions with me, Jennifer Valentine-Miller, on PRZ-FM 109.2, the radio production that highlights some of our rational ways of thinking and behaving. And at the end of the day, Christ is the one who sees our hearts and loves us despite our wrongdoings. Due to popular demand, I'm back with another mental health matters discussion, and this time it's around self-harming. The NHS says that self-harming is when somebody intentionally damages or injures their body. It's usually a way of coping with or expressing overwhelming emotional distress. My guest for today is Mandy Stone, a former self-harmist, now a lifeline for self-harmists, an author, wife, and full-time mum. And Mandy's on air today to campaign about how Jesus changed her life.
Hello.
Hello, Mandy. Just let me know when you're sat down. I won't rush into things, so we get a comfortable
Right.
place for you.
Okay. You know what it was as well? Is where I took the girls to PQA.
Oh,
So they was there as well. So I was trying to talk to you outside,
it
but
sounded good, but they thought that no. But
oh
anyhow.
bless. But I'm sitting down now.
There's some great answers. I just hope you can remember them on this time round. Okay.
Right.
I can
It's
always
right.
forget. Okay.
That's all right.
Hi, Mandy. Thank you for joining
Hi.
me on the Month for Emotions. How are
Hi,
you?
Jennifer. How are you? I'm
Well.
fine.
Thank you. Okay, we now know that self-harming is back in the forefront of
Yep.
media intention.
Yes.
How did your local church back in 2000 help and support you find your faith as a self-harmer?
I think it's because I had a really good vicar. Basically, they helped me to believe in myself, understand. Basically, it was just I used to have really bad issues of trust, and I think because they accepted me for who I was, and rather than what was going on, it sort of opened up a lot of doors for me. And I've done an alpha course, and I suppose in a sense it was like I just see the light.
When did it start, self-harming? Can you briefly
Um,
describe to listeners and why?
yeah, of course I can. Well, basically, it was I was fostered at 5 months old, and obviously my foster parents that I love dearly, I was brought up to believe that was my mum and dad. I got to the age of 6, and they told me that I was fostered, which at that age was very difficult for me. I'll be honest, very, very difficult. And basically, it happened as a mistake. As kids do, copying parents. I was watching my dad shave one day, and I decided I wanted to copy. But as I did, I cut my lip, and I sort of instantly felt the release, and that just seeing that blood and that hurt took that emotion away from me inside, and it just led on from there, really.
When you came to know the Lord, you were a great advocate for the Alpha course. However, you say
Yep,
within your Mandy story document that you rebelled
yep.
after 9 months. Can you explain why?
I think the reason why I rebelled is because, like, I'd gone through so much pain with the self-harming, um, alcoholism, drugs, bulimia, like everything I could punish myself with, I would sort of do. And when the Alpha Course was actually introduced to me, the way I personally looked at it at that time was, well, if there was a real God, then he wouldn't have allowed this to happen. So at the end of the day, I don't believe in it. And I didn't. Like, I don't have to hear a church bell, and it used to freak me out. But it was just, I just couldn't understand at that point how all these people were saying to me that the Alpha Course will help you, let Jesus in. And that was the way I looked at it. If there was a God, there was a Jesus, then why has all this happened anyway? So a lot of people say that to this day as well about a lot of things. But yeah,
Mm,
that's the answer to that one.
yeah. I know that Christ is firm in your life.
Oh, definitely.
Do you still have ups and downs? And as a mental health practitioner, do you recommend any coping mechanisms?
I still have ups and downs within life in general, but when it comes to the self-harming, no, I don't. But the coping incident, like when I was sort of on that journey at the beginning of cutting out the pain and many years ago when I did used to struggle, I used to cry because obviously it was something I always knew about. And it was the only way I could deal with the problems. So coming out of that and finding a different way of coping was difficult. But I found by sort of a lot of prayer, understanding that Jesus would never give me anything more than what I could handle was always in my heart. So it was just a case of really trusting in the Lord, really.
Uh, the recent Mental Health Foundation document or act says that women are the prime suspects for self-harming.
Yeah,
Excuse me. Would you agree with that?
definitely not. Within the work I do, we've come across a lot of men and a lot of young men and boys that self-harm. But the difference is with women, where it's socially accepted for women to express their feelings and their emotions, it's fine, that's okay. But as soon as a man expresses anything, they're judged because they're supposed to be stronger. So you'll find a lot of men, or just the males in general, will hold back because they don't want that sort of discrimination coming towards them, and they don't want to be bullied for being weak and things like that. So they tend to be more doing it behind sort of like the closed doors of where everything's fine, but it's not. So I wouldn't agree with that one, no.
More than 11 years ago, you were the campaigner for young people who fall prey to self-harming. Are your
Yeah.
children aware of your legacy?
No. My children, did you say?
Yes, yes.
No, they are, obviously, because they're so young, they know certain things, but there's certain things that, as their mum and the age they are, they don't need to know. But they do know that I did do a lot of work around self-harming, and I do lots of talks around self-harming and things like that. So I don't know if they actually are aware of the legacy, no.
Well, you've got a favourite character in the Bible, who is
Yeah,
Mob in Mark 5.
Mob. Yeah.
What
I
attracted
always call him Mob.
What attracted you to Mob?
I think it was when you first start reading the Bible and things like that. I think it was more to the point that when the vicar, John Parsons, was going through different stories in the Bible, I think his one stood out to me because of the situation with the stones and hurting himself and the pain and the confusion that he was in. And I suppose when I read that story, it just really, really related to who I was and where I was at that present time in my life.
Yes, I've read
So,
yes, I had to read the passage before speaking to you. Yes, I can see it
yeah,
now. I know we should be reading every day, but it really, stuck out to me that he was
yeah,
self-harming. The Christian evangelist Nicky Cruz, who was a gang leader of the Mau Mau's in the 1950s, reports
yeah.
that he got high with violence. Is there a similar experience, do you feel, with self-harming today?
I think you'll find with self-harming, it's a situation of where it's quite strange, really, because it's only through my research and everything else I've actually found out a lot of what's behind the self-harming. But what it actually is, when you self-harm, it releases I can't remember what it's called now, endorphins. Hold on, I can't think what it's called. It's like a chemical in your body
Yeah.
that it releases, and it's basically a stress one. So like sometimes if you're having a lot of stress and you shout or you whatever, it seems to release that
Yeah.
chemical, whatever's in your body. But basically, the self-harming connects to that. It's sort of like it becomes addictive because every time you do it, you feel that release, if that makes sense. But it has been medically proven that it is sort of like an endorphin or something that is set off in your body that triggers it. But for the life of me, I can't remember what the name of it's called. I've got it written down, but I can't remember it off the top of my head.
Well, if anyone's interested, I have Mandy's number, and they can get in touch with you via the PRZFM studio. So
Yes,
that
that'd be
I'm sure
brilliant.
you'll have that to hand if it's really needed.
Oh, definitely.
You're the managing director of Cutting Out the Pain.
Yeah.
Do you ever tell your clients that you have Jesus in your life, and how do they respond to that?
Well, unfortunately with me, I can't really escape that anyway, because whenever I tell my story, I can't really tell my story about mentioning Jesus. But 9 times out of 10, they're fine with it. They are fine with it. And 9 times out of 10, a lot of them understand, they follow, and they just accept it because they want the help as well.
Is it a full-time occupation for you?
No, I'm an hairdresser as well. No, I'm an hairdresser as well. That's another thing that the good Lord lets me into as well, my qualification into it, which I never thought I'd ever have, a qualification, but it just goes to show you can do it. But that I sort of do with that, if you know what I mean. Yeah. I actually was joking with my husband a couple of days ago about being an evangelistic hairdresser.
Not unusual. There's many pastors' wives who are evangelistic hairdressers, so it's not an unusual.
I know, it puts you in the weirdest place to me.
In 2006, you were the campaigner for the Face the Issue initiative that was out there. You know, self-harming, drink, drugs, that we fed into. What I mean, what can you say about facing the issue with this current situation we have with self-harming?
I think the best thing to say is it's one of these situations, unfortunately, in society that's not going to go away. But I think the thing that we can do to face the issue and help the issue is by people becoming more educated and more understanding around it. Which then if we become, especially schools and the government and people like that, because once there's an understanding, then there's a doorway of helping. But if people are not willing to understand the situation and they're constantly saying, oh, they're doing it for attention, they're doing it for this, then that person's just going to be pushed further and further back. It's just about understanding and reaching out and not putting them in a box, if you know what I mean, and saying that you belong over there. And I think that is the only way you can really face the issue, unfortunately. It's just about being there, being supportive, understanding and just caring.
Mandy, I know that you're very busy and I'm sure you're doing a lot of media work around self-harming. So can I once again say thank you for being on A Month of Emotions, and it's always great talking to you.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon. Bye.
Chapter 9. Addicted. Addictions come shrouded in various cloaks, whether it be pornography, gambling, smoking, shopping, work, or the most elusive, as well as the most popular of all, drugs. I have never had a serious addiction, though I'm sure some of my adventures in life could have made it so easy. It was, however, some of the victims along my family tree who fell to the stronghold of alcoholism which made me realize and believe that I need to break that chain. I'm always delving in and out of psychology today, which continually refers to addictions as a disease and also an act that has harmful consequences. A disease is a malaise contracted from society, which gradually has an adverse effect on one's body and mind. These harmful consequences soon spread into our homes, the workplace, amongst our children and family. Many live in denial, believing they can prevent and control this disease. However, at what point does an individual say that they actually want to be set free from what it is that binds them? Possibly it is at that time when realization hits a certain organ in our body, for example, our brain, which then tells the heart that there is a need to regain its structure in life in order to function like everyone else around us. There are many testimonies to tell and much to be admired. However, none can be simpler than that of Reverend Stephen Derbyshire, senior pastor.
When I was at senior school, I became very disillusioned with life. At around the same time, I became friends with a group of boys that were experimenting with drugs. Before long, I was dabbling in the same drugs, and 2 years later, I had my first injection of heroin. I was soon injecting a few times each day. After spending time in prison, I hit rock bottom. At my lowest point, I cried out to God from the place of desperation and said, "If you are real, reveal yourself to me." And I realized that God heard my prayers because from that point of despair, I started on a journey of discovery. One day I went to a small church and heard how Jesus had died upon the cross to set me free from a life of emptiness. Although I had heard this before, it was as if I was hearing it for the first time in my life. The minister offered to pray for people, and I went forward. As I prayed, I experienced an overwhelming sense of love and acceptance. Since meeting Jesus, I have never felt alone. I have found a true sense of purpose. Following Jesus is an amazing adventure, and I have never regretted the night I made the decision to surrender my life to him.